sharing my screen. Okay, let me put this in full screen mode. Avneet, could you confirm if everything looks good and I can continue from here?
We are good to go, Sandeep.
Thanks, Avneet. Hey everyone, welcome again. So we are going to cover introduction to cybersecurity and exploring the pathways and possibilities in cybersecurity domain, right? So that's what would be the prime goal for today. Next 4 sessions also would be based on the varying topics that we have. One of the sessions we're going to cover cryptography, and then application security and several other areas also will get covered. Primarily the topics are based out of the certification in cybersecurity that Infosys portal has, right? So we'll be just focusing based on that, and the topics are aligned to that so that you can easily clear up that certification exam that's there on the Springboard. So Avneet has already introduced me. I'll not waste time in talking about this, but yeah, I'll just add one thing that I want to share with you people that when I started my journey, it was not in cybersecurity. I joined Nest Technologies as a software engineer and was doing all sort of work as a fresher, because freshers are more of a filler. Wherever there is a need, they will ask them to work on. So that gave me like immense opportunity and exposure, and I got a holistic view of entire SDLC. Right. So I was writing scripts for DB migration. I was just writing scripts for performance testing. I was running test cases for doing the testing of the senior developers code that they are writing unit tests for them. Writing code whenever a developer is not available or on an emergency leave, and then like writing code not just in .NET or Java, but also in C++ and several other languages, right? So though the team was having several smaller groups who were focused and working on specific technologies, but I, as a fresher, got an opportunity to work across all the smaller teams whenever there was a need to work with them. Then I moved to SAP Labs, and there I was working on automation of their workflows that they had and ensure that the whole testing cycle reduces. So I worked for SAP Labs for 2 years. Still now, I was not exposed to cybersecurity. And then in 2009, I moved to McAfee, and I was hired as an automation expert, to be frank. But after joining, the whole automation project that we were having, that kind of got deprioritized, but I liked the team that I was working with, right? So I just wanted to stay with that team. I didn't want to leave that because the whole team, the ambience in the team was really good, and I enjoyed working with them. So I started looking for other possibilities and opportunity where I can contribute within the team, and I saw that security testing is one area where there were some requests that were coming up, and I talked to my manager. They were looking to hire somebody externally, and he was like little taken aback, because with so much expertise in automation, why somebody will want to move to something new, and that too whether I'll really be able to do justice to the security assessment or the pen testing domain. So they put forward a 6-month path for me, while I continued working on my ongoing responsibilities that I had as part of the current team on the testing and the quality assurance and leading the team. But at the same time, I took over the security assessment role also within the team, and started contributing to the security testing. So my goal was for the first 6 months that I have to perform a threat modeling, and I have to do a security assessment and find some security issue in a website that was given to me. And I have to complete a certification as well. And this was all put forward just to see whether I'm really keen in pursuing that path, or it is just a passing thought. But those 6 months went well. The first 3 months were not that well, because I was just learning and learning, and I was not able to find any issue. The first vulnerability that I was able to report in that website didn't happen in a day, didn't happen in a week, didn't happen in a month also. It took several months of time and persistent effort. And it was a constant learning every day. So if I say that first 3 months, there were no results, but there were a lot of effort that went in, right? And that led to reporting of that vulnerability. And I didn't give up in those first 3 or 4 months. When every day when I'll try hard to find something, I'll make a progress, but it will finally not lead to a provable vulnerability that there is something wrong. But those incremental effort finally added to a vulnerability that I could report after like 4 months of effort, right? And I completed the threat modeling, and the certification also got completed within those 6 months. Beyond that, it was not looking back. So from 2010 onwards, I started working mostly on like throughout on the cybersecurity part, and then I switched to FactSet last year, not last year, 2022 August. I switched to FactSet. I had worked for 14 years at McAfee, and I decided that okay, I need to get some more exposure in other domains. So I joined a fintech organization, and they are based out of Hyderabad, but yeah, I work remotely from Bangalore for them. So that's a bit into journey that I'm an outsider for cybersecurity. I didn't started my career in cybersecurity, and you people also can venture into that direction. Yeah, it does take time, and it's a bit of luck as well. But just have that confidence and keep learning. And there are ways to build your profile in cybersecurity without working also. So I'll talk about that as well. So these are some of the topics that I've listed today. And while I was looking just before the call, I thought that there are too many content that I have to cover today. So I'll just skip this part. I've moved this outside the slide. I'll not cover on this because it doesn't seem relevant for today's session, but I'll cover on all these area. First thing, we'll talk about why should you choose a career in cybersecurity? What are the security trends and attacks? And then fundamental security principles. That's what you should be largely focusing and trying to get an understanding, right? And then I'll go towards the skill development and your profile buildup, right? So I'll talk about what are the key skills that you need to be very successful in cybersecurity, right? Not all the skills are required for all the jobs, but you want to be the best in cybersecurity, then I've listed like close to 6 or 7 skills that we can talk about. What are the different cybersecurity roles and certification? And we'll talk briefly how relevant are certifications, right? So we'll talk on that as well. How to gain expertise in cybersecurity and how to build your profile in cybersecurity. So these are all aligned, and we'll be talking about them as part of this session. Okay, so here is a question. You can take it a shot. What is the weakest link in cybersecurity? Right. So this is not a quiz question, not a poll, but you can give your answers in the chat. Give it a thought that what is the weakest link in cybersecurity? Okay, HTTP. That's a good answer. Any other guesses? Network. Any other guesses? HTTPS, TCP, untrusted website, data privacy. Yeah, all those are relevant answers. Social engineering, application. Okay. Human element. Non-certified website. Okay, so I have got the right answer from at least one of you. So I'll just share the right answer. We, the humans, are considered as the weakest link in cybersecurity. Reason being, we write code that's vulnerable. We misconfigure website, right? We do not follow the security practices. So that's how the whole vulnerability or the breaches take place. So no matter how advanced or sophisticated the security measures and technologies are, they can be compromised if individuals fail to adhere to proper security protocols or fall victim to social engineering tactics, right? So why does a phishing attack or social engineering attack happens? Because the person, the victim, is not aware that he's getting scammed, right? Or is not aware that there are certain checks that he can do before clicking on that link. If everybody becomes aware, then the scammers will run out of business. So here is a fun cartoon that you can have a look, right? That this is how phishers work, right? They will bring in some human factor. They will send you a mail that, hey, your bank account password has expired or something like that. And you'll think that, yeah, he's a genuine person. Or over a call also, somebody may say, that there is a courier that was supposed to get delivered to a foreign nation, and it was in your name, it was using your Aadhaar card. I'm trying to inform you and help you. You are getting into a kind of a cyber security case, and there would be a litigation. You would have to come in front of crime department. You may start believing him because he's sharing lot information about you. You might get a call from insurance provider, and they may say that, hey, there is a bonus in your account which you have not taken up uh, from your because you have been a consistent timely payer, and we have decided, the company has decided to give you a bonus. And you may fall prey to that because you think that, okay, this is my service agent, or my personal banker who's contacting me, and he's trying to help me out, right? So this is the cartoon, same aligned to the view. Now, these are some of the reasons why should you choose a career in cybersecurity, right? Cybersecurity workforce shortfall remains a critical gap for companies and the nations, right? Across the globe, that's a critical gap that exists. Now, 82% of the organization has reported a cybersecurity skills gap, right? 76% believe their government is not investing enough in cybersecurity talent, right? Across the government also, there is a need to ensure that the whole government-based infrastructure that they have, be it on the defense side, be it on the education side, be it on the research side, that needs to be protected, right? So 76% of the people feel that their government is not investing. 1 in 4 say their organization have lost proprietary data as a result of their cybersecurity skills gap. So the organization had the right people, they could have prevented that breach from happening. 1 in 3 say a shortage of skills makes the organization more desirable to hacking targets, right? So they do not have skills to defend, fortify their infrastructure, and that's why they feel that they are vulnerable and they are prone to attack. 71% believe the cybersecurity skills gap has a direct negative impact on their organization. Why so? Because of the bad name that comes in the media or the press releases that takes place. The other factor could be that when they go ahead with a B2B model and talk to another potential customer or a partner who's again a business, they will ask them that, what are you doing for cybersecurity? What are your security practices that you follow? And if they do not have experts within the organization, they would not be able to answer those questions. So these are some of the salient reasons why you should choose a career in cybersecurity, right? The possibilities are immense. There are immense opportunities. It's just that we have to develop the right skills, build our profile, and make ourselves visible. Now, this is a bit of stats on the connected devices growth, right? So if you look into 1993, the number of connected devices that we had, it was like very minimal in the billions, right? In 2003 also, it was 0.5 billion, because predominantly it was computers that was adding to that number. And in 2012, the rise happened to 8.7 billion because of the smartphone. We started embracing and using smartphone. And you can see that how it has grown further to like 50 billion because of IoTs and wearables, and everywhere we have a connected device, right? So now the threats are no longer limited just to the space that we used to foresee earlier. It was not just limited to just the devices that are on servers or just on a laptop or a system. Now everywhere there could be a vulnerability, right? If somebody is using a pacemaker and that is connected to internet, imagine an adversary who gets hired to hack that pacemaker to kill that person, right? Or any of the medical devices that are being used for doing surgeries, if they malfunction because it was having a vulnerability, right? And somebody from outside the operation theater or over the internet tries to do something malicious, and that malfunctions, that could be catastrophic and people will lose their life. Similarly, if you look into the other domains and areas, be it the space research or be it the airline industries, the softwares are everywhere. There are codes and programs that are taking care of a lot of activities that are happening. Any mistake in those areas could be catastrophic again, right? Even in the defense industry, you kind of put the numbers for the potential target, right? If there is a vulnerability and those numbers are no longer being read because the hostile nation could compromise your network, and when you set a target to a specific location, they silently tamper it and you do the damage within your nation, right? So all those can be possibilities if cybersecurity is not taken seriously across the domains, right? Earlier, it was believed that cybersecurity is more important for the security organizations like McAfee, Norton, or Quick Heal, Kaspersky, and all those top vendors that we have in the security industry. But that's no longer true. The moment you have a business that is running and it has an online presence, it is connected, you need to have cybersecurity expertise within that organization, right? If you take example of the e-commerce websites that we have, each of them focus on following security practices because the damage that it could lead to would be massive. Because firstly, it would lead to financial losses. The customer data could be compromised, right? And then it would lead to customer loss also. Why would you like to do shopping on an e-commerce website where your data, be it the financial data, be it your transaction history, or be it your credit card information that gets leaked or breached, right? So you would not be interested in doing that. Moving on, the rise in the number of connected devices has also led to result in increased breach and attacks. So these are some of the facts and figures. I'll not go through all of them because we already briefly covered in the last slide. I'll just jump to the next slide. Now, the rise in connected devices has led to rise in number of attacks and threats. And these are some of the threat vectors that take place, right? Man in the middle attack, cryptojacking, ransomware, denial of service, botnet, identity theft, privacy leaks, session hijacks, botnet, ransomware, all those are like different varieties of attack that takes place. And these are different mechanisms via which the adversaries or the attackers gain control or gain advantage. Now, what are the key causes that leads to these problems, right? So some of them from the software perspective are poor coding practices. Why does that happen? Because again, you do not have trained coders. They are just like out of college and they never learned on the security practices or secure coding practices that they should be aware of, right? Within the organization also, there is not enough diligence and awareness to follow the security practices. So even though somebody was aware, but the whole organization is not following, and there is no such enforcement of security practices, then even somebody who's aware of security may not start following or honoring that out. Insecure handling of sensitive data. So that could be the other way, that the data you're collecting of your customer, you're not handling it well. The database password is weak, and the data that is kept is not kept in an encrypted or hashed way, and an adversary gains access to that. Lack of input validation, the API or the input fields that your website is having, those are not doing any input validation, and somebody can do a SQL injection kind of attack by just passing some parameters, SQL code, injecting some SQL code as part of the input field or the API that you have. And as you're not doing any input validation, it kind of leads to exploitation and leakage of the data. So these are as part of the design or the architecture phase. Post deployment phase also, there are several security considerations, like the whole system that gets maintained post deployment. If you are not patching the libraries or not patching the services that you're running, if you're making them insecure by doing the configuration changes, right? So that again could lead to an attack, right? Your DevOps team needs to be trained, and they should be aware what they have to do. You should have security controls like firewall, HIPS, and antivirus prevention, antivirus protection deployed on the systems that can prevent any attack or a malware that comes into picture. You're not logging enough and monitoring so that whenever something goes wrong or somebody has gain access, if you do not have logs, you will not be able to find out also that, okay, some breach has happened and where did that breach happen, right? So logging and monitoring is equally important to give you deeper insights that what really happened. If my server or infrastructure was under attack and somebody gained access, how did that really happen? And that logging is one of the critical aspects to be able to reduce that out, right? So you need to have ample amount of logging to gain that insight. Now, these are top 3 reasons that I share with most of the people. There are more reasons, but these are my top 3 that I share with most of the audience. That why every organization today needs to invest in cybersecurity. Cyber threats are growing, and so are the breaches. Right? There is no stopping, and it's just a cat and mouse game between the bad people and the good people, like the black hat hackers and the white hat hackers. Right? And they will try to kind of bypass the controls that we are putting in place, while we will try to foresee those challenges and add additional controls to prevent any attack from happening. And why cyber threats are growing? Because it's a lucrative money-making business, right? There's a lot of money involved in all that, and that's why it's going to continue growing. Just like the crime in the human space or in our social space is growing, similarly the cyber threats and crimes are continue to grow because it's a money making business. The second point is not being diligent about cybersecurity would cost you more as an organization. If you're not taking cybersecurity seriously, the moment a attack or a breach happens, the cost of handling that, then compared to the cost if you would have done your diligence earlier, is going to be substantially high, right? Whenever there is a security breach or attack happens, an organization has a lot of operational cost. You need to kind of stop your development team, the whole team that was working on the development, be it the architects, be it the programmers, be it the testers, to stop their work and focus on fixing this issue that has got reported or an attack has happened, right? So you will kind of reallocate your resources, those were working on some business priorities and commitments that you had committed to your customers, right? So you will miss those timelines. You would involve patching and incident response team. So even the DevOps team that would have planned to do some other work, they will get diverted to focus on this incident that has come up. It will impact your reputation because finally the news will spread in the media and the organization would become a talking point. There could be penalties from the law enforcement agency because the breach or attack could have happened because you didn't do the diligence as a software vendor or a provider that you were supposed to do, right? You may lose your market position, your competitors may gain because your name is getting spoiled, right, as an organization, and the competitors will gain because they will show themselves as a differentiator that they are handling the security well. The third point is diligence around cybersecurity builds the trust among your partners and customers. So when you are already doing all the things rightly, you can declare that on your website that this is my security practices. This is what we do, right? When you go ahead and talk to another business partner for expanding your organization, they will look into your security diligence that you are doing, and you can share your security policy document to them. You will secure, you will share your data privacy policy that you have, how you are protecting the data, how you are ensuring that the customer data is not getting leaked, right? So all those will build the trust and confidence, and more people would be more ready to do business with the organization. So these are my top 3 reasons which I keep sharing, but there could be more, but I'll not go into that. I'll keep moving. This is an example that half effort or just merely following a checklist approach and not embracing cybersecurity wholeheartedly is not going to help, right? Whenever you have to whenever you have to follow cybersecurity, you would have to kind of ensure that you are following it wholeheartedly and completely. So you can see that this is an example for airport security. There is a snake that is going in, and if you're blindly following cybersecurity policies just as a checklist without having a thoughtful understanding or expertise within that, you will let the snake board of plane and let him go in and lead to a chaos within a flight, right? So that's how the cybersecurity is also. that you need to embrace it wholeheartedly and follow the principles diligently. At the same time, having experts who can provide you the guidance when things are not very clear. Now we'll talk briefly about security attacks. Why, who, and how does it happen, right? So why do people do it out? They do it for fame, like to build their profile. They just want to get a name that I found a vulnerability in XYZ organization, that they can put it on their profile, right? So those could be ethical hackers or unethical also. Like if they do not disclose the vulnerability to public, but disclose it only to the organization where the vulnerability in whose product or service the vulnerability is seen, then they would be deemed as an ethical hacker because they didn't try to announce it to the world, but they just told it to the people who can address it out, right? So that's for fame. The second point is for fun, just out of annoying an organization or just for killing a competitor or making their life difficult, they will do it for fun. And the third and the most important reason is profit. There is a lot of profit in selling the data that has been stolen, in kind of gaining financial insights, in stealing the intellectual property, in understanding where people are investing, where a nation is investing time in their research, right? So like India has a lot of defense projects that it is running. Those are like super secrets. And if that information is kind of somehow getting breached or leaked, then that would be gain for somebody because they can sell it to some other hostile nation. Who are those people? So script kiddies. Script kiddies is a popular term used for people who are new to cybersecurity and learning, and they will just simply pick some script and try to kind of run certain attack, and they may be successful in running those attacks because the organization on which they ran that attack, they have not done their basic diligence also. Security researchers, people like me or a lot of other people who see a vulnerability or research on a vulnerability and ethically try to report it to external reporter, to the external organization. Hacktivists are people who will try to do kind of finding out data from the. Can everybody go on mute? Yeah, so hacktivists are people like Snowden. The WikiLeaks could be the example. They try to bring in internal hidden information from the government agencies to the world, and they call themselves more like an activist, and the acronym that is used is activist. So their prime purpose is that if government is doing something wrong or something they're trying to hide, across the government they'll try to get that information somehow by doing attacks, by stealing information, by social engineering, and bring it to the public. Organized cybercrime, right? So that's a whole business. We have a dark web that exists, and beyond that also, we are pretty much aware of the organized cybercrime, right? I mean, I constantly keep getting calls from cyber criminals who are trying to kind of gain some insight from me by throwing away some information. They do not know me that I work in cybersecurity, but I keep getting those calls. So yesterday I got a call where the person was saying that my phone number is about to get blacklisted because of so and so reason. I did some call to some terrorist organization, and because of that, they will block my number. And he's calling from an ISP. And I just kept listening to him to understand what all they're trying to do. And finally, he said that he will connect me to the police department and I can talk to them. It would have led to extortion. They would have asked me to pay some money and all. But yeah, finally, when I told him that you're wasting your time, he became abusive and he disconnected the call. So that's how it ended. But that's an example of organized cybercrime. Hostile nation states. So the nations that are not good in terms with each other, and they are competing with each other in terms of military power and several areas. Definitely they would like to gain more insights, right? You can read more about Iranian nuclear plant attack, that's called a Stuxnet attack. Go and read about it. That's a good read, and that's a good case study that you should understand, that how does a hostile nation state attack works. So many engineers work on building a malware that could do a catastrophe and kind of destroys a nuclear plant of a hostile nation. Corporate competitors will not delve deep into that. Definitely for winning the competition, they will be doing. Employees, insiders, so that are also threat that I work for an organization, and if I become disgruntled and I start attacking them from inside, I have more access within the organization to do more damage, right? How do they do it? They could do through the source code analysis. They could do through the black box profiling. They could do through the first testing, reverse engineering, penetration testing. Some of the mechanisms are listed here, right? Threat modeling also could be that they try to fingerprint and do a threat modeling of your entire application, identify the potential entry point and launch an attack. Now let's learn some fundamental security principles, and I'll request all of you to pay attention to these, and then we'll take a pause for question answers, right? Beyond this, I know that you people would have some questions, so we'll take a pause for the question answers. But before question answer, we'll have a quiz as well on the fundamental principles that we are going to learn, so pay attention to it. And these are directly based from the certification exam that Infosys has, that you people are going to take. So CIA is the foundational security triad for cybersecurity, right? So C stands for confidentiality, I stands for integrity, and A stands for availability, right? And they define the whole data security or even the entire cybersecurity fundamentals, you can say. They are also called as 3 pillars of cybersecurity. Confidentiality is all about protecting sensitive information from getting disclosed to the unauthorized people, right? So whatever is any confidential information, that should be disclosed only to the authorized people, not to the unauthorized people. So let's take example of Aadhaar system, right? All of you have Aadhaar account, or even e-commerce, any e-commerce website, you will have an account, right? So when it comes to Aadhaar system, you have provided a lot of your information. It could be your date of birth, it could be your address that you have, your home address, your biometric information. All those are information pertaining to you or pertaining to me when I have provided. If I, as an adversary, am able to view any of your information, be it your date of birth or be it your address details, as an Aadhaar user, I'm also Aadhaar user, you are also an Aadhaar user, right? And if I'm able to find any of your details, that's where confidentiality gets impacted, right? So confidentiality, remember, is all about disclosure to unauthorized people of any confidential or sensitive data. In basic terms, that's what is confidentiality. On an e-commerce website as well, we all have our own account, right? I log into my Amazon account or a Flipkart account, and if I'm able to see your details, that what you have purchased or what is your address, right? That's where confidentiality is getting impacted. I do not have access to modify anything, but I just can view and see. So that's more of a disclosure of sensitive data. The next thing is integrity, right? While confidentiality was all about disclosure, integrity is all about modification. So if I'm able to modify the sensitive data, right? If I go ahead and log into Aadhaar and can kind of update my fingerprint as your fingerprint in the Aadhaar system, and then you are not able to log in, but your data has been updated and I am able to successfully authenticate on your behalf. So whatever bank transaction, whatever loans are required, I go ahead and take loan in your name because I have tampered around with the Aadhaar system and update my fingerprinting and even the iris details or other factors as mine, right? That's where the integrity gets impacted, right? Similarly, in the e-commerce website, if I can modify your address as my address, and when you're doing the shopping and you do not realize that your default address has changed, whatever shopping you're doing, it gets delivered to my address, right? So that's where integrity could get impacted. That's a bit about the integrity part. Now, the third principle or the third pillar is A for availability. That's more about availability of the system, right? If the system can be brought down, let's take example of an e-commerce website. If I can bring it down and you're not able to do shopping, right? Suppose that they came up with a deal that the first customer is going to get some reward or recognition from them. Let's say that they're giving a free iPhone to the 100th customer, and I somehow bring the service down and it is just available to me, and for the rest all people it is not available. That's where availability gets impacted. Suppose that I do certain thing on the Aadhaar server and nobody is able to do any verification using Aadhaar system, or nobody is able to enroll themselves to Aadhaar. That's where the availability gets impacted. So while confidentiality was all about disclosure, integrity was about modification by unauthorized people, and availability is all about service degrading or becoming non-available for usage. So that's the basic of CIA that we have, right? Remember, confidentiality, integrity are more of restricting unauthorized people. As authorized person, you should have view into your information. You should be able to see that out. Same for integrity as well. You should be able to modify your data, but nobody else should be able to modify that data. Right. So I'll move along to CIA questions to be considered. Suppose that you're working on a software development and design of a software, right? So what are the questions that you can ask to the development team if you are a security reviewer of that application, right? And or you are a developer also, you can ask yourself these questions. So when it comes to confidentiality, what data needs to be kept confidential, right? What data should application expose and to which users, right? So like when we are on an e-commerce website, it just shows us our data. And for an admin of an e-commerce website, when they log in with the admin console to debug or unblock some users whose password has expired, they might be able to see everybody's data, but they are admin and all their activities would be tracked. But no other user at my level itself should be able to see my data. What system information should the application not disclose? So while user data is important, at the same time, system information is also important. When you log into Flipkart and if Flipkart starts showing a page that says that they are running Apache Tomcat and they are using so and so version and they give a whole stack trace also, right? So that is more of a disclosure of sensitive information pertaining to the infrastructure or the system that also needs to be protected, right? So this is on the confidentiality side. These are the questions as part of any product development or service development you can bring into practice. On the integrity side, what data should the user be able to alter, which system action should be restricted, which application file should be protected from user modification. And on the availability side, similarly, which user should get access to which data and service, right? Suppose that a user is user of any e-commerce website, he or she is able to stop the service and the whole website starts throwing 500 error because their admin console for website management was not protected, and somebody else who was a user, he or she was able to log in and they just stopped that service or killed that service, right? So those all needs to be protected, and that could lead to like availability issues. Which user should have the right to deny access to the other users, right? So I can give an example here. Let's take example of account locking feature. Earlier, we would have been seeing that most of the website has a account lockout, right? Now let's assume that there is a new website that has come up and it has close to 50 users only at the moment, and they run a contest every month on the first day of the month, right? Where the user has to log in and answer a quiz question within like 1 minute and they get some prize, right? And there are 100 users only. I managed to find out all the 100 user account and what I'll do just before the contest starts, just 5 minutes before it, I'll lock out all the users, and I would be the only user who has active login. I'm going to win the contest, right? So that's how an adversary or attacker works. That's just an example. Now, those kind of features could be tricky. And now I have seen that most of the organizations are not directly blocking or locking out the account. They have a multi-factor authentication that rules away of account takeover or account hacking approach, because they'll send the OTP and you can quickly still be able to log in out, right? So which users have the right to deny access to other users? So let's take example of any e-commerce website or a Aadhaar website. I log into that and I somehow know your Aadhaar number. And if I'm able to block you out for 1 day or 24 hours or even for 20 minutes, that's where I'm able to control your profile access. And that should be prevented. Can the application or remote system be subjected to DOS attack? Right? If it is exposed to the internet, it can be subject to DOS attack. What level of scaling we have and how can that be prevented? Now I'll talk briefly about access control framework, AAA. A stands for authentication. The first A stands for authentication, second A stands for authorization, and that third one is accounting. So please try to understand the differences between these three terms. Authentication is all about the user, who you are, right? More of a verification of a user, right? That who you are. So for this meeting that we are having, I logged into the Zoom, and then with the right credentials, my username and my password, Zoom got to know that I am a user whose name is so and so. So that's authentication. So it got to know that this is Sandeep who was logged in, and it brought in my profile details, my background that is being set, right? All that was already stored there, so it picked that up. My other details about my profile, it brought in. So that's how authentication was successful. I was able to join this meeting, the Zoom meeting, because I had the authorization, because there was an invite that I've got, right? So that's more about the authorization part, that what permissions I have, that's to do with authorization. There are hundred of Zoom meetings that are happening now, but I do not have the invite link to them, and I would not be able to join to them. I just joined this because I'm authorized to join this meeting. So that's more about authorization. I have joined this meeting, and the whole logging, that at what time I joined and whether I'm available or not, right, for this meeting, that comes under accounting. The monitoring and the logging, that's more about the tracking part. That's all comes under the accounting. So suppose that I have promised to Avneet that I'm going to take up this session, and she sends me a meeting invite, and I say that I joined and nobody else joined, right? And he says that no, you didn't join it out, right? That's when she can show me the accounting and the logging results, that hey Sandeep, this is the meeting and this is the logs for that is coming from the Zoom, and I don't see that you have ever joined this, and this is the accounting. So that's where the accounting comes into picture, that enforces and gives the confidence to the people not to refute some action that they have taken, right? So that's more on the accounting side. So I'll run again from authentication, authorization, and accounting with some more example. Suppose that I go to the airport, right? And I provide my, to enter into the airport, I provide my ID proof. That's authentication. I'm authenticating that I'm Sandeep, right? And I showcase them the ticket that I have. That also more of authentication. They give me the access to the airport space based on the ticket. If I'm just giving them the ID proof and not the ticket, they'll not allow me entry within the airport space. So to some extent, air ticket that I'm furnishing, that gives me the authorization or permission also. But authentication is largely through the ID card that I'm furnishing. Then I go ahead to the airline's counter and provide my ID card, provide my printout of the ticket or the SMS showcase to them. They issue me a boarding pass. Again, that is authorization, because they authorize me that I am entitled for a boarding pass. When I go with the boarding pass inside the airline, right, I cannot sit on any other seat. I have a fixed seat. So that's my entitlement or permission or authorization. So that they will look into my boarding pass and they will tell me that, okay, that's the way you can go and you can find your seat there. Now, suppose that I go ahead and sit in some other seat. They'll come and tell me, or the person to whom it belongs to, they'll come and tell me that this is not your area. You're not authorized to sit here. Go and sit on your seat. So that's another example of authorization, right? I entered into the airport, and if I say that I never entered into the airport, so there would be a CCTV monitoring that's happening. So that comes under the accounting part, right? So I hope you people are clear on these three concepts. I can take one more example on authentication, authorization, and accounting. We all have gone to our office. We all get an access card, right? Access card has our photo. So at the door, when we swipe the access card to enter into the office premises, right? And the security guard, if he or she is sitting there, they will look into the card and they will say that, yeah, I mean, you are good, and the door will open. So that's more of authentication, or even to some extent, authorization is also taking place. Within the office, there could be a sensitive server area. If I go and swipe my card there, the door doesn't open because I don't have authorization or permission to enter that area. There would be specific admins who have access to that physical server space. And when they swipe, they are authorized and they can enter into that, right? And then I swiped my card and my access was denied. That will get logged as an event, and the security operation team will reach out to me that why did you really swipe your card there? What were you really intending to? So that's the whole purpose of accounting. I'll move on. We have more things to cover. So this is principle of least privilege, right? So this is more on ensuring that whatever service we create, whatever roles we are creating, as part of those services and the roles, we provide the minimal amount of privileges for that role to do their duties, right? So this can be applied to any process that is running on the system also. In the system, if you create a client-side software that is running as a process on the laptop that I'm running, and that doesn't require a system level access. But if you're running it as a system, that's where you're not fulfilling the principle of least privilege, right? You need to run as minimal privilege as possible. Why it is helpful? Because it helps in reducing the attack surface. If something goes wrong, the impact of that incident is as minimal as possible, right? The process becomes rogue, but what max it can do would be not at the system level, but more at a normal user level, right? So that's why you need to keep the privilege to the minimal. So as an analogy, I have an example here. In a typical house, there could be different types of roles that we have, right? So within a house, you can see that there are parents or the house owners who own the house. There could be kids. There could be house helps, like people who come to clean utensils or people who come to cook the food. And the fourth category could be on-demand helpers, like you had an electricity issue in your house, you call them on demand, right? So some of the examples are here. Now, from the privilege perspective, the parents would have the complete access to the house. Whereas when you compare to the kids, they will have good level of access, but you will not let them touch the sensitive appliances, like using a iron for a 2-year or a 3-year old kid. You may not allow them to do that out, right? They may sleep on the bed. They may be able to kind of do a lot of things in the house, but certain aspects would be restricted. You would not let them touch any sensitive uh, documents because they can tear it apart, right? Now, when it comes to the maid and cook, their privilege in some cases could be higher than a kid, but not more than the parents, right? Like parents would have access to the locker and like a lot of other area, they can enjoy and sleep on the bed, like just like the kids can do, but you will not allow the maid and cook to do that out. Similarly, plumber and electrician. So suppose that last week your tap was not functioning, you called a plumber and he rang your bell, you gave him access to the house. Now this week also he comes and rings your bell, you do not have any plumbing problem, you will not give him the access to the house, right? You will not give him the same access that you have given him last week as well. So these are typical examples. Similarly, you can relate them as an analogy in the software domain and software space as well, right? Be it a server, be it a application that you are developing, anywhere these are relevant. One-time access for a lot of things that you can do that could be required to be given. So those are examples of plumber and electrician. admins could be more of a parents, right? Kids could be normal users who have limited access to sensitive appliances, and so could be the maid and cook who have specific access, more like a read-only access, like they can just clean up the house. They cannot open the drawer or lockers, and the cook can just focus working on the cooking area, right? Now, the last principle I'll talk briefly is on the input validation. So this is all about input validation, how critical it is. If more and more people and more developers are doing input validation, I'll say that majority of the security vulnerability and risk that takes place, that will go off, because most of them happens because of lack of input validation. So by default, assume all inputs are malicious unless you prove a reason that why it is not malicious. You should sanitize input before trusting it out. Do not rely on client-side validation. If you're doing a client-side validation, reinforce that validation on the server side, because over the transit, the input may be tampered, right, altered when it reaches to the server. So you should always reinforce that validation. Follow the rule of whitelisting instead of blacklisting. What do I mean by whitelisting, right? So suppose for any given input field, you are accepting certain kind of input. Ensure that you're just allowing that amount of input only and not anything beyond that. So whitelisting is allowing only those characters that are relevant for that input. So if I take example of a age field, right? Suppose that as a form, you're asked to enter your name, your age, right, and your email address. So for age field, it can be any number between 0 to 150. Let's assume that 150 is a upper limit and 0 or 1 year is a lower limit. Any character, suppose that somebody enters character A as a age input, you should simply reject it out, saying that not a valid input. Because why you are rejecting that out? Because you're just saying that if anything which is not a 3-digit number or a 1 or 2-digit number between 0 to 150, I'm going to simply reject it out. You're not bothered whether they are entering A or B. You're not validating that out. If the input is just like a numeral between 0 to 150, that's my valid input. Anything outside that, I'm not bothered. I consider it as an invalid input. Whereas in blacklisting, what you will do, you will say that, okay, don't accept alphabets, don't accept Unicode, don't accept special characters, don't accept mathematical symbols. So the whole building up of blacklisting becomes quite a cumbersome job, because finding out all sort of inputs is not easy. So that's why it is encouraged that you just use the whitelisting approach. You just say that I am going to accept only this, instead of saying that what are not acceptable. Because building or writing a code or a regex for blacklisting is always going to be error prone, because you would not be able to find all sort of inputs, all sort of characters that exist across the globe. That's why whitelisting is encouraged. Okay, so before going to quiz, maybe we can open up for questions if you have on the security principles that we discussed, and for general questions we can take some more time. Any doubts on the general security principles that we discussed?
Sir, Vidya this side.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, Amazon, we are giving some information or inputs file, like I am going to buy the bread. Then I am getting advertisement of milk and then coffee powder, and continuously I am getting that means my information is passed to some other. Na? Is that a breach of security, or how it is how it has been looked in the society, in the cyberspace?
Sure. So they use tracking cookies, Vidya, for doing this kind of a thing, right?
Is that legal, sir?
As part of their privacy policy, when we accept, we do not read it out, right? When the end user license agreement comes up, we just say that I agree.
Correct.
And it would be included there that we would be giving to third party, but there would be ways to get rid of cleaning up your data. You can just tell to Amazon that I want to see what all data you have gathered from me, right?
Okay.
and it would not be tied up with your profile. I'll tell you, Vidya, that it would not directly be mapped with your profile. What
Okay.
happens in such cases that in your browser history there would be a cookie that will define that you are interested in flight booking, or you are interested in going to so and so place, or you are
Okay.
interested in buying so and so category of a product.
Okay.
And based on that, they will build up your generic profile. So it doesn't say that Vidya is interested in that. It will say that whichever user has this cookie in their
Okay.
browser, show them this ad.
Okay, sir. And then there is another thing. While we apply for some jobs or something else, they'll be telling we are forced to accept the cookies. Is that the right way? What they are doing?
uh, you can just try rejecting also, right? Some cookies are important, but I'll say that do not worry to that extent if you are on a legitimate and website, right?
Okay.
If you are on a website which is renowned and well understood, like top job portal domains, then that's absolutely fine.
Okay, sir. Fine. Thank you, sir.
Cookie is more or less required for personalizing your view, and even in kind of helping them serve you better, at the same time show you the relevant jobs or ads also. So it can be used for marketing as well. It can be used for good purpose as well.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Cool. So Avneet, I'll request you to launch the quiz now, the poll.
Sure, sure. Ladies, I'm going to launch there's a questionnaire of 10 questions, and those all will be time bound. We are at 12:33. We will be closing the poll at 12:40. Is that all right, Sandeep?
Yeah, 12:39 we can do that now.
40, 40.
39 would be better. We'll get 1
Cool.
minute extra. Yeah.
Great. I hope all of you can see the poll.
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah, even I can see it out. And do attempt the poll freely, because this is from the learning, and have the confidence. Even if you're attempting it wrongly, it's a time to clarify those concepts, right? So do not worry from a marking perspective. This is not for ranking, but just for your understanding and to build the confidence that you should carry forward from the sessions that we are having. And we'll be discussing all these answers in detail so that you get the learning.
Ladies, I can see very less participation coming in. We are 49 of us, 50 of us. So I would appreciate if all of you please participate and give the answers. It's a very easy poll, and the questions are very much related to what you have studied. So kindly please go read through the questions and do the poll. Thanks, Rashmi.
Navneet, we can give some more time, depending on the participation.
Sure, Sandeep, we can keep it till 12:40,
Yes.
another minute, as only 16 of them have participated.
That makes
Ladies,
sense.
come on. It's nobody, your name is not going to show. Nobody is judging you here. So, it's just a questionnaire. Okay. Two minutes more. Okay, Spurti. Are you all still doing? As I see 31 out of 50. Okay. Responses coming in. Great. Sudeep, I hope you are able to see.
Yes, I can see that out of me.
Yeah. Okay, Sudeep, do you want me to stop it, or
We can end it in like at 8. Yeah.
okay, 42, 12:42?
Yeah, the timer is also running, right? So we can
Yeah,
just wait,
right.
end it at 8 minutes.
Okay, sure.
You can end it now. That should be fine.
I'll share the results.
Sure, you can share the results.
I hope it's visible.
Yes, the results are visible.
Great.
Sure. So yeah, we'll go through all these questions, right? So the first one, if you see, it is talking about the usage of new technologies and how to keep sensitive information and not from leaking, right? So that's more of a disclosure, not from divulging. So the right answer for that is confidentiality, right? Good to see that 93% of you have answered that rightly. So this is the right answer here. The second one is, which of the following scenario is an example of violating the availability principle in cybersecurity? So remember, availability is more to do with server being available, responsive, or system being available and responsive for usage, right? So I see that good split across all four. So the first one says a ransomware attack encrypting critical files. The second one is an employee accidentally sending confidential emails, right? And the third one is a hacker changing the grades in a school digital results, right? And the fourth one is none of the above. So let's go through one by one. Okay, so the second one is an employee accidentally sending confidential email to the wrong person, right? That's more of a disclosure. That's more of a confidentiality that is getting impacted. The third is hacker changing the grade in a school digital records. That's more of a availability problem, right? No, that's more of a modification. That's not a availability problem. That's where the modification is happening. That suppose that my result was X, somebody tampers it and makes it Y, right? So that's, they're modifying the data. So that's a modification problem. The first one, a ransomware encrypting critical files. Critical files are encrypted by a ransomware. I cannot read them out. They are no longer available for me to access. That's where availability gets impacted. So I hope that part is clear, right? If you have any confusion, stop me and unmute yourself and ask questions if you don't understand or if things are not clear. Going to the next question, which of the following best describe data integrity, right? So I see 88% have given the answer as protecting data from unauthorized modification. That's the right answer. Thanks a lot for all the people who rightly answered, because integrity is more about the data modification, tampering of the data, changing of the data, right? That's where integrity comes into picture. How can organization ensures confidentiality of their data, right? So I see all of the above, a lot of you have spoken about. So remember, confidentiality is not about 100 different things. It's all about protecting the sensitive data from getting exposure to unauthorized people, right? So how can you protect sensitive data? I see the next best is 41%, and a lot of people are given strong encryption. So encryption is a technique to kind of keep the data in a protected manner, which cannot be human read unless they have the decryption key, right? So encryption technique is the right answer. Software update may or may not guarantee you in providing the confidentiality. It's a good practice from cybersecurity principle perspective, but it doesn't have anything to do with the confidentiality. Creating multiple backups, that will not ensure confidentiality if whether you're creating the backup or not. That will ensure the availability. If there is a data loss, you still have the data available, right? So that may not guarantee the confidentiality. What can guarantee the confidentiality is keeping the data encrypted. What is authentication? Process of identifying users and validating who they are. So 54% of you have given this as an answer. 2% have given the answer process of verifying what they have access to, right? And 44% have given both A and B. The right answer is only A, right? Because this is more of authorization, process of verifying what you are entitled to, what you have access to. That's authorization. Authentication is process of identifying users and validating who you are, right? Which of the following scenario describes authentication as it used in AAA framework? A user logs into the system by entering the username, right? That's the right answer, and 85% of you have given the right answer. A user receives permission to access a confidential document. That's authorization. So all those people, 16 people who have answered that, do not get confused. Authorization is more about permission, what you are allowed to do. Authentication is more about who you are, what you are, right? So when I go to office, I am Sandeep, I show my ID card, I'm allowed to enter the office. I don't have access to the server room. I don't have permission to that. The moment I swipe my card, I am denied access. That server room doesn't open. So that's my access level control. So whenever access comes into the question, that's more to do with the permission, right? Or entitlement. Activity logged in audit purpose, that is accounting, right? A user is denied access due to insufficient privilege, that is again authorization. What is often used to enforce authorization in enterprise environment? So passwords. Password is again for authentication because you enter your username, password to tell who you are, right? So that's authentication. Role-based access control, right? That's primarily used for defining the permission. Like admin role could have a specific level of entitlement. User could have a specific level of entitlement, right? System admin will have a different level of entitlement. Developers could have a different level of entitlement. Read-only accounts would have a different level of entitlement or permission or privileges. So role-based access control used for that. Two-factor authentication, again, that's a authentication. The name itself says authentication. It confirms who you are. First factor could be username and password, but the password could be leaked. That's why multi-factor authentication is used to make it more robust and foolproof. VPNs just provides the confidentiality and provides you to get connected to a private network. How does accounting contribute to security in the AAA framework, right? By encrypting sensitive information? No, accounting doesn't encrypt sensitive information. Accounting is more about logging, monitoring, tracking the activities that are taking place. By limiting user attempts to log in, no, I don't think it does that also. By providing detailed logs of forensic analysis, yes, this is the job of accounting. By granting permission to users, this is authorization. This is not accounting. Why is principle of least privilege important in maintaining cybersecurity within an organization? So it minimizes the risk of insider threat by restricting user access only to those permission for their job. Yeah, as minimal as possible, and 90% of you have given the right answer. That's good. So principle of least privilege is enforcing as minimal privileges to a user that is required for him to do his job. Which statement best describes the concept of input validation using whitelisting? Accepting only specified, known, and safe input. So 80% of you have given the right answer. Limiting the validation headache as much as possible, and just saying that, okay, I'm going to accept only these 3 numbers for the age field. Anything outside that is not accepted. So that's what is more of a whitelisting approach of input validation. So thanks a lot for actively participating and attempting this quiz. This is more to build more confidence, and we just discussed the answer, so we can open up for questions if you have any. And I see that we are just left with the 10 minutes, so I'll not go with the further slide because that will require more time. All the question and the right answers are highlighted here. I'll quickly keep running while waiting for the questions. And Avneet, if there are any questions in the chat, could you help and read it out for me?
No, Sandeep, there is not a question, but yes, Shobika is thanking you for the quiz. The quiz helped us to identify the learning gaps indeed. So that's a thank note which has come from Shobika.
Thanks,
And
Shobika.
can you share the quiz? The quiz has already been shared, Shruti. So
Yeah, so they might be looking for the questions.
okay. So if you allow, so I can put that. I
Sure,
can provide.
yeah, we can share the question, or yeah, we can share the deck also to them, right? Whatever I covered, so I can take a
Okay.
PDF dump and share it with them.
Sure. As you share, the deck with me, I'll be, giving them the access to that. And in terms of quiz, ladies, allow me some time. I shall be sharing it with you in a couple of minutes after the session gets over. Yeah.
Sure.
Shall
Yeah,
I stop sharing the poll?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Avneet, you can do that out. So everyone, what I'll recommend that we are going to have a next session, right? And that's in 2 weeks from now. I'll say that go through the content that you see as part of the Infosys cybersecurity fundamental certification that is there on the portal that they have as part of the springboard, and go through the content that they have, relate whatever we learned, and the next session would be on the next chapter that we had. So we'll be focusing on those areas as part of the next session that we have. But at the meanwhile, whatever doubts or queries you have, you can ask that. We still have some time. You can utilize the time in getting that addressed, right? And I have lot more content I'll cover as part of the next session. Like these are like helpful things, and I want you people to be aware of that, but I don't think we have ample time today to cover that out.
Hi Sandeep, this is Rashmi here. I have
Hey,
a small question.
Yeah.
So I would like to know how artificial intelligence or machine learning plays role in cybersecurity, because we have seen multiple courses like AI in cybersecurity or ML in cybersecurity. If you can
Ab-
suggest.
Absolutely. So see, the whole purpose of AI and ML is to kind of improve the human efficiency by involving machine or the system where like whatever we do monotonously, right? It could be penetration testing, it could be the security assessment that we do, right? So if we build a system using AI and ML that can readily answer developer doubts or queries on the cybersecurity principles. So that's one application of AI and ML in cybersecurity. At the same time, when AI and ML models are getting built, they need to be foolproof. That should not be bypassable, right? So suppose that you are building a ML system that gives some mathematical answers to the students, right? Suppose that our student says that 5 plus 5, how much it is? And the AI or ML system says that it is 10 because it is built with certain mathematical model. Now, as a user of that AI and ML system, if I can do a prompt injection and say to the ML system that, hey, you are wrong. 5 plus 5 is not 10. 5 plus 5 is 55. And it starts accepting that it was wrong and updates its own responses. And down the line, whoever asks 5 plus 5, it says that 5 plus 5 is 55, right? So that's more of one of the example where cybersecurity could go wrong if there are not ample validation at the model level, right? Where user can control things and modify the AI/ML responses, right? So I just gave two examples how cybersecurity, AI and ML can come into cybersecurity, and how cybersecurity can go and cross the line and support on the AI and ML and ensure that those are foolproof and those are not bypassable. There are more examples, but that itself would be an entire cohort or a session. We cannot cover that out, but I just gave you subtle hints and examples to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. So to have a good knowledge in cybersecurity or at some level in cybersecurity, we should be having the language idea like Python.
Programming language?
Yes, I'm talking about that.
It's good to have, right? But there are several roles, like in the beginning also I told, like there are roles like SOC analyst, or even to some extent architects do not do a lot of coding, but they are to some extent understand that well, right? So certain roles, you would PCERT role also, you would be mostly required to analyze the finding from the external reporter. So you would not actively be required to do coding or programming. There are a lot of roles which requires, there are a lot of roles which do not require in the cybersecurity.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Sandeep, one question. See, you told about data, right? 0 to 150, the data should be given. Suppose, assume we get a data to enter from our external source where the anomaly is blank. So in that case, how can we get the information to check?
Yeah, so in cases where you do not have a way to do the whitelisting, right, you would be left with the blacklisting approach only. So suppose that the data format itself is not defined, it's just a comment that is coming from the user. Then it becomes difficult. And in such cases, you can leverage the available open source libraries. OWASP has a lot of libraries that can do the input validation. You can just say that validate for malicious characters, and that will take care of it. But whitelisting by default, wherever the data is well defined and you know the range, then you can add that. Like for input field also, like email field also, email address, right? Email address cannot be infinite long. It has a fixed length. That might be like 220 characters or not more than that. Or if you're not expecting your user to enter an email address length beyond 50 characters, just restrict it to 50 characters and do the validation. If you're not expecting angular brackets as part of the email address field or a script tag for an email address field, reject them out, right? So again, you can restrict as much as you can do if you know the data and the kind of validation that can be added on that data format.
Yeah, and one more question is, I feel that testing will be more related to cyber, like, the data validation. So it's just my perception, but whether it's true or not, I want to clarify.
Just the testing part you're saying?
Yes, testing
no.
part.
No, so the cybersecurity experts, like it depends. what cybersecurity domain you are going to, right? If you're going as an analyst, if you're going as a PCERT engineer, the roles and responsibilities are altogether different. If I just take example of the testing that you're talking about, right? So as part of the entire security development lifecycle, suppose that you're working for a team and you're verifying, working on a product. That's not all the roles of cybersecurity, but just one of the roles that you're working as a security engineer within a product development team, and you're contributing to the security assessment of that product, right? So as part of your role, you would be required to do threat modeling. When you're doing a threat modeling, you're working as good as an architect will work. You will do a threat modeling by doing the whole architecture diagram, finding out where an attack can happen. When you're doing a penetration testing, right, you would be kind of working on a testing, but you would be having much more knowledge than a normal tester, and to some extent even developers as well. When you're doing the code review, you need to give the guidance to the developer that here is something that you're not following the security principle. Here is how a buffer overflow will happen. Here is how you need to add an input validation. Then you would be required to be having more knowledge than a developer. But this all would not happen in one day, right? When you join as a security engineer, the expectation would not be built up on one day, but over a period of time, you would be required to take up all these activities. And remember, I'm just telling this just because it's not that for all the roles you require coding or development knowledge. As you asked this question that it's just testing, no, it's well beyond testing. It is holistic. When it comes to reporting, you need to be as good as a content writer. So a security engineer, if somebody is working on a security assessment of a product, they would have to showcase all the skills, right? Across the different domains, be it the developer role, be it the content writer, be it the architect, be it the tester. They need to be best in all those domains. And over a period of time, they have to constantly improve themselves. But this is just for security engineers. So other people do not get into a mode that, yes, cybersecurity is not for you. There are several roles that you can embrace, and you do not need to be as good in coding like a security engineer, because there are analysts, there are SOC people, there are PCERT engineers. All of them do not need to have coding knowledge. Any other questions, Shruti, that you had? I hope that answered your question.
Hi, Sandeep. One more question from me, Rashmi.
Yeah.
If I have an experience of web security that is more into proxies and firewalls, which are securing the web and networks, then in what way it fit in cybersecurity if I want to pursue better career in cybersecurity?
Sure. So see, the web security is a larger term, Rashmi. So what you have is web security, web infrastructure security, I'll say, right? Because firewall and those comes at the infrastructure. When you say web security, it would be OWASP top 10, like SQL injection, cross-site scripting, cross-site request forgery. All those elements will come into picture. Those are more focused on the development area. With web security knowledge, yeah, for sure. When it comes to secure system administration, configuration of firewall tools, handling this misconfiguration, that could be something straight away would be very easy for you to pick it up. And you can build up your profile on OWASP area as well, because you understand firewalls, and you would be required to configure rules to prevent script injection at the firewall level. It should be there at the application layer as well, but we always believe in multi-layer protection, deep protection, right? Layered approach we used to take. So there should be a protection at the firewall level. There should be a protection at the intrusion prevention system level, all those levels, right? So you can kind of provide or contribute in those areas as well.
Intrusion part I can go for.
Absolutely, in those areas as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
More of the infrastructure security management would be like easily pickable for you, like infrastructure administration and guidance, configuration, all those would be related to you. But you can very well build up your profile in web application by learning on those areas and embracing them out.
Sure, thank you.
Any other questions?
Hello, hi Sandeep, this is Mansi here.
Hey Mansi.
Thank you so much for the session, it was amazing. Okay, so I would like to ask a question like, in any ways, can we leverage the AI technology to find a new class of cyber attacks so that, we are well prepared for those kind of attacks and we can overcome them before they even occur?
Awesome. Yeah, that's a pretty good question, Amansi, right? So see, the whole AI and ML system that you see, they have a knowledge all arriving from the human itself, right? They are based on the things that we know. Whereas the cyber attacks that takes place, that are very novel. They keep coming in. So I'll just take example of SSL 3.0 that was considered secured in 2005, right? Then we moved to TLS 1.0 sometime in 2010, 2011. And then we moved to TLS 1.1 and then TLS 1.2. When TLS 1.0 was released, say in 2010 or sometime during that phase, it was not that the developers deliberately made it vulnerable, right? They did their best, but over a period of time, the whole researchers evolved and they identified a new set of ways to penetrate and lead to a breach or a vulnerability, right? So it's more of a learning thing. AI and ML over a period of time might be able to predict some of the things, but whether they would be really go beyond the human intelligence and because finally it's human only who identifies new ways to bypass. And if you look into the AI and ML model, like the whole mathematical concepts that they follow, it's all from the human models that we have provided. They derive the knowledge from there itself. So it all depends how far AI and ML can go. Can it beat the human mind? Can it become as quick as human? Or can it be having that thought level or thought process? It's something that we have to wait and see in the future. At the moment, the current AI and ML system that we see, they are not there yet to kind of compete with the black hat or hackers that we have, the adversary that we have in the whole dark web space, right? Those people have already readily available tools, and they might be using AI and ML to do things and save their own time and to focus more on launching more sophisticated attacks.
Thank you so much, Sandeep. That was really helpful.
Thanks, Mansi. Any other questions, people? So, I mean, the homework wise, I'll recommend you people to go through the syllabus, because finally you would be attempting that certification as part of this program, right? Towards the end of July, right? So I'll recommend you to start putting some effort in learning more on the cybersecurity, because this session is just for 90 minutes, right? Beyond that, for the next session, you have 14 days left. And in that duration, try to learn whatever we covered today, and also start learning from the Springboard system, from that certification, and come up with questions where I can help you and guide you or clarify any doubt, so that you get more holistic understanding and your whole foundation and fundamentals on cyber security are so strengthened that you can build your profile and career on top of it.
Yeah, Sandeep, one more question. See, in cloud, there are a lot of tools, right? So, which would be giving us a hands-on, whether AWS or Azure, like people say, like many, right? A lot of tools are there. So, as a beginner, which would be a good source to, practice?
The cybersecurity you're talking about, Shruti?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'll say that don't focus on technologies yet, right? Build up your fundamentals, right? And once you understand that where things could go wrong, see the whole vulnerability that happens on a S3 bucket, the same class of vulnerability exists in Azure, right? So it's not the technologies or the cloud provider that you should focus at the moment. If you already have some bit of expertise in cybersecurity, then for sure you can do it out. But if you're not there yet, focus on building your platform so that you can clearly see where things could go wrong, right? When you understand what is threat modeling, when you understand, when you start foreseeing problems well in advance, then you can find those problems in Azure also. You can find those problems in AWS as well. And tools are like very basic. Once you understand cybersecurity, the tools will spit out the results. And when you understand that why it is cribbing about something, when you're going in ahead and analyzing those results, when you have the fundamental understanding, then you will say that, okay, this is cribbing about it because confidentiality is getting impacted or integrities are getting impacted, or this is a spoofing attempt, this is a tampering attempt. So all those we will cover down the line. At the moment, focus on building the fundamentals and foundation. And down the line, we can talk more on the different level of security tools. I'll not say pick any tools in crowd at the moment. That's not required. If you have to pick tools, pick tools like ZAttack proxy, pick tools like Burp Suite proxy to learn, pick tools like Fiddler to understand what is getting exchanged from a web application, from a browser to the server, how the data exchange happens. Learn about HTTP methods. So this is more of a preparing yourself for the bigger battle that you're going to fight with Azure, AWS, or any kind of infrastructure. But before going ahead and having that battle, your fundamentals and your homework should be done.
Thank you, Sandeep.
Sure, Shruti. Any other questions?
Thank you, Sandeep. I see a few more questions in the chat box. If you have time, we can pick one or two, or else if you want me to redirect them to you in a message, I can do that too. So whatever suits, we can proceed ahead accordingly.
Sure. So I'll just take some of them. I see one of them that is from Shruti. What
Yeah.
ammunition do a non-techie, non-engineering background need to start on cybersecurity path as a career? So see, the overall cybersecurity is more on the software space, right? And it's going to have some level of technical element. It will not always be programming, but some level of understanding on certain areas like networking understanding, or understanding of HTTP methods, or understanding of vulnerabilities. When somebody says buffer overflow, you should be able to understand what it is really happening, right? So that it will involve. Now, if you are a non-techie and non-engineering, but you still want to pursue in cybersecurity and you can show that you are really made for that, for sure you can pursue the career, right? Because you have to build some technical appetite on those areas. And with the learning, you can do it out. You can build your profile independently also by participating in bug bounty programs, right? They do not ask whether you are an engineering or a techie person. They just want somebody to find out vulnerabilities and report to them, and they will give you a certificate. They may give you money reward also, monetary reward as well. So you can very well do that out if you can build up your profile, right? And once you are a proven pen tester or a hacker in the industry, a lot of organizations will directly hire you because you are capable of finding vulnerabilities in real products, right? But it does involve technical element. You don't have that learning, but you are ready to embrace and go ahead in the journey. For sure, you have a good future and career in that. But yeah, for sure, it's not going to be easy as well. You have to open up for more learning compared to other people who are technical. On which areas of cybersecurity focused, or if someone is aspiring to be DevOps engineer, cloud career? Thank you, right? So I mean, basic fundamental is very much required for all the roles of cybersecurity, and then you can start moving in that direction. When it comes to cloud, each of the cloud will have misconfigurations. So cloud administration becomes a job. You would get results from tools like Cloud Custodian or Guard Duty. You should be able to understand those results. So that's more of understanding the specific intrinsic misconfiguration. And you can go ahead and do the certification on the AWS Azure, but only if you understand the fundamentals and foundational principles well of the cybersecurity. Like if you understand what is the difference between encryption and hashing, if you understand, you're very thorough with CIA, if you're very thorough with STRIDE, spoofing, tampering, reputation, information disclosure, denial of service, elevation of privilege, all those you are very thorough, then only I'll recommend going there. Otherwise, just hold on. It's just a matter of few weeks. You'll get that understanding, and then you can delve into specific domains of your choice. So Avneet, I think we can stop here. Yeah, there is a bigger question from Namrata, but you can share that with me, and I can answer that out.
Okay. Okay, ladies, more questions I'm sure there will be coming up but we will be having, more sessions with Sandeep in coming week. And it's better you can make a note of your questions, and moving ahead, you can check with him. Okay. So just to let you know, next week, Friday, we will not have the session with Sandeep. We will be having the next session coming on 28th of June, 28th of June with Sandeep. And in the meantime, you can always, continue your learning on the Springboard and can do your certifications, right? Thank you very much, Sandeep. It was a very great, insightful session, valuable insights you have shared with us. So thank you so much for addressing our candidates, and we will be looking forward to have more sessions ahead.
Thanks,
Thank you so
Avneet.
much.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye. Have a lovely day ahead. Ladies, the quiz has been shared with you all in the WhatsApp group. You can go, go and see and do it on your pace.
Thanks, Avneet. Have a good day. Take care.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye,
Bye.
Sandeep.